Advertising Project TV.
Hi, my name is Alex Wiles, and thank you for watching this MMP update, where we tell the untold stories of those uniting across struggles to put people first. Today, we have Ron Blunt from the Unified Taxi Workers Alliance of Pennsylvania to talk with us about their struggle for living wages and better working conditions for drivers, and how this is connected to the greater fight for human rights. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I grew up in Philadelphia, North Philly, up by the old Connie Mack Stadium. And when I was growing up, it was during like the Civil Rights era, the Black Panthers, to the Black Muslims. It was just a lot of political activity going on in North Philadelphia. And I went to the Navy, came out, and did a few jobs, and I started driving a cab. And I guess it was maybe the second round I came back from driving the cab. I went to do another job, I came back. I started noticing the exploitation of drivers. And I don't know, some kind of way it sucked me in, you know, where we say, okay, the drivers hadn't had a meter increase in 14 years, what can we do about it? So that was like, that's what hooked me into this work.
All right, that's pretty cool. It's great how you like stepped in and like helped to solve a problem that you saw was happening, you know. Can you give me some examples of some of the day-to-day struggles of a taxi driver?
Right. Well, most people would think like everything that a taxi driver makes, every penny you give them goes into his pocket. It's not true. Taxi drivers start the day in a steep negative, owing like maybe $150 to pay the rent for the cab, the gasoline, credit card fees, airport fees before they can actually turn a profit. So like the first 8 hours the drivers are working is actually to break even, and then it's just that second 4 hours they have where they got to try to hustle and make a living for them and their families.
Wow, okay. That's a lot. Okay, so what exactly is the Unified Taxi Workers Alliance? Like, what do you guys do? Right.
Well, back in the 80s under President Reagan, they declassified taxi drivers from employees to independent contractors. So by law, we're not able to form a true union. So TWA, Taxi Workers Alliance, we've been behaving as a union. We do everything that a union does. We file grievances, arbitration, lawsuits, you know, anything that a union would do, we ourselves do. In fact, earlier this year, the National AFL-CIO gave us the 57th charter affiliation to their organization. So it speaks volume that independent, even being an independent contractor, you can organize.
A lot of people might call the taxi drivers the ambassadors of the city because you guys are often the first people that travelers meet with and you interact with so much of the public. But often the stories told about taxi drivers criminalize them and pit them against the riding public. So why is this happening and who is benefiting from this attack on drivers?
Right. Well, since the U.S. and basically the world, we moved from this globalized manufacturing base where we manufacture everything. We moved into more of a hospitality industry.
Right.
So in order to keep these hospitality workers in line, you sometimes have to demonize them or you have to isolate them to keep them under control. They not only do it to taxi drivers, they do it to teachers, firefighters, they do it to the police officers, they do it to the security guards, anyone that at that time is demanding justice or economic justice in the work they do. So I believe that these are the reasons that cab drivers are sometimes demonized in mass media.
What's the relationship between the parking authority and taxi drivers? Like, where do they come in on all of this?
Right. I believe in the year 2004, the state Republican legislators, they wanted a Republican based in Philadelphia. So what they did was they took over the Philadelphia Parking Authority. It was an agreement made. Part of that agreement also was to place the Philadelphia taxi cabs, to take them away from the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission and place them under the Philadelphia Parking Authority. So the Parking Authority is essentially like the regulator, the boss, the overseer of the taxi industry.
Can you tell us some more about the rules and regulations that you have to deal with in the industry just to be able to keep driving and earn a living?
First of all, a driver can't have a felony on his record. He will have to wait 5 years before he can drive again. He would have to, every year he would have to pay at least $100 to renew a certificate. He would have to install a GPS credit card machine in his cab and be tracked and pay 5% on all transactions from that credit card machine. He will be limited to what he can advertise in his cab, and the way his cab can work, like how old it can be, and how many mileage it can have and stuff like that.
Beyond the ongoing fights you face in coming up against the parking authority and other forces in the city that impose negative regulations that make it difficult to be a taxi driver, we also know that you're deeply connected to other struggles and fights of poor and working people in the city and beyond. So how and why do you see yourselves as connected to these other struggles? Like, why do you choose to align yourself with these other organizations despite the fact that you're fighting for taxi drivers?
Right. Like, as we progressed with our work, and, it was like opening up Pandora box. And what drivers began to realize was that our children go to public schools. We all use the same doctors. We even go to the same churches and mosques and synagogues. I mean, I'm just saying, like, right. We're a part of the community. So even if we was to fix every problem in the taxi industry, we would still have a community problem. So, like, our struggles are connected. Also, when I bring a passenger from the airport and I take them to the hotel, and the hotel doorman takes the luggage out, that's the same worker as that's being exploited, And the same thing when I take a customer to a restaurant, I'm connected to that restaurant worker. So we see all of these connections, of working people and working poor trying to make a living in this country.
How are you working to organize and fight back against these conditions that are being imposed on you, both with taxi drivers and struggling people in the city?
Right. Well, in the past, we've been working with people with disability to make sure that we put wheelchair accessible taxi cabs in the street. We partner with students and parents to make sure that the Philadelphia Parking Authority gave their portion to the school budget each year. We have partnered with the security guards at the art museum at the universities to make sure they was given a living wage. And all those things, it helps us in return. So when taxi drivers need to mobilize for an action or something like that, all these other communities link with us to give us that added power. So I guess like of ourselves with nothing, we realized that early on, that we had to connect with all these communities in order to build power.
Okay, I think it's great how you guys are pooling your resources and drawing connections between different struggles in order to, fuel this larger movement that is like just for human rights in the end. So, how can people get involved and learn more?
Right. Well, our office is at 4233 Chestnut Street. We also have a website, www.twapa.org, where they can hit a donate button, or they can just come in and volunteer, or they can help us do some outreach in the field with other taxi drivers. So they're more than welcome, and they also can let us know what's going on with their communities, right, where we can get more involved.
Right. That's awesome. At MMP, we know that this fight is deeply connected to other struggles for education, healthcare, housing, living wages, and for the dignity and respect that all people deserve. We also know that it's going to take a movement to eliminate the structural inequality at the root of all our struggles, and to ensure that people are put first in our society. To share your story and to get involved with Put People First PA, contact stories@putpeoplefirstpa.com. I'm Alex Wiles, and thank you for watching MMP TV.
Media mobilizing Project TV.